Yeah, it's a big difference. Okay, how about this? The offseason starting, you just said it. The phase one of the offseason is free agency. If you had to, the Niners have so many needs, but if you had to pinpoint their top priority this offseason, something that they need to address right away in free agency, a position, a player, what do you think that should be?
Well, from an offensive perspective, Grant, I think the first place I would go is I need somebody in the interior of my offensive line.
Thank you.
Okay. Because that impacts the run game as well as your pass protection package. So there is a dynamic factor between the two guard slots in the center position where I need to make a move that's going to give me a plug in and play player. Don't
Yep.
give me some guy who's a year away from development. People talk about, well, we got to replace the left tackle. You know what? There are kids in the draft who are very competent who I can bring in redshirt theoretically for experience behind left tackle. Not a medical redshirt, but I'm talking about a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to find somebody in the interior of my line who can plug in and play this year, who comes from the league, who's got experience, so that I can run the ball efficiently between tackles. And then secondly, Grant, so I don't get my offensive line walk back into the face of my quarterback.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean,
Especially when you have a shorter quarterback, you need a really strong pocket that he can step into.
We always used to kid Sid Gilman always said, hey, that offensive line, you've got to create a holy land for the quarterback, to use a biblical term.
Love
And
that.
the Niners can't do that. Look at how few opportunities they have for a quarterback, be it Jones or Purdy, to throw from a clean pocket.
Yeah. I
And
mean, they have Pooney on the right side. He's solid when healthy, but the left guard was Spencer Burford. He's a free agent. They shouldn't re-sign him. Ben Barch isn't good enough. Connor Colby not good enough. They got to go out and sign a experienced, youngish left guard who can plug and play right away. Preferably like a former first, someone really good.
Well, the thing about it now, go back and look at Seattle. You mentioned them earlier. They used a rookie left guard,
They did.
Zabel, who actually played very well as a starter. And, there might be a player or two, if I can commit to a first round draft pick for a guard, I can go out and sign a center in the free agent market. So now I'll have a veteran NFL center who can handle the slides, checking protection, the mic calls, and things of that nature, and then get a premier left guard who I can put in there and play, and then live with Pooney at right guard, and then I got to go with the tackles as they are for the season and hope that I can get through another year at left tackle.
Yeah, this is Jake Brendel's final season under contract. He's 34 years old. The Niners insist that he's really good, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's that good. It seems like you could definitely upgrade there. What do you think of left guard and center being two positions the Niners could address in free agency or at this offseason?
The thing about, I guess they do have some salary cap space, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be an expensive buy. I remember years ago, they made a trade with Detroit for a left guard.
Correct. Tomlinson.
And I think would they give up a second round pick for him?
Oh, I don't even think they gave up that much. Let me go back and look. 49ers trade.
Regardless, they were able to get a lot of mileage out of him as from the trade from the Lions to put him at a fifth
rounder. Oh, he was considered pretty much a bust at that time. Yeah.
That was a steal. Now he was a high draft pick initially. So he had qualities coming out into the NFL. And so I think they have to scour the list and say, okay, who are the interior linemen? And then the other thing that is important about this whole process, Grant, is that Kyle and John need to look at the skill sets that they want from their offensive linemen to make sure they're bringing in players through free agency as well as the draft who fit the skill set they want. No sense making a free agency acquisition like they did a couple of years ago in Philadelphia, where you're bringing in the guy who had success in the scheme from which he came, but he didn't fit what the Niners were doing. And therefore,
Yep.
I think they had a defensive tackle from the Eagles a couple of years ago who they paid for. And, the guy didn't basically, register on the radar for the Niners defense the whole season.
The last time the Niners made a real investment in the offensive line in free agency, correct me if I'm wrong, was when they made that big signing for Weston Richburg, 2018. That's what they had just traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. And the thought process, man, we have this great quarterback. Let's protect him. We'll spend our first round pick on Mike McGlinchey, and we'll go spend a lot of money on Weston Richburg. Neither guy really worked out the way the Niners hoped, but the thought process was, let's make our offensive line as good as possible for our new special quarterback so he can be as good as possible. I mean, the same logic should hold true for Brock Purdy. He was under constant pressure whenever he faced Seattle. It doesn't seem like he can run away from it. He needs some more time.
Well, no, that would be important. And the other thing about it is, the Niners, from another perspective, need to take a hard look at who they really are as opposed to what Kyle wants them to be on offense. Okay. You can have a concept of what you like as a construct for your offense, but if you don't have the players to fit that concept that you have as what your style of play is going to be from a run game or from a pass offense, then you have to adjust and tweak your concepts to fit the players who you have. And right now, Kyle still is using the same game plan, the same Xerox playbook that he's had with them for 9 years, to be honest. There's not a lot of difference between what he does now. He's got a few gimmicks with shifts and motions, but conceptually, it's the same thing. And he doesn't have the players to fit those concepts anymore. And then secondly, he needs to realize that the rest of the league has become more in tune and wired into what he's doing offensively. And to be honest, from an organizational perspective, not only from offense, but also from personnel, they need basically an outside voice to come in and peel back some of the layers of the onion, so to speak, and give them a harsh, truthful analysis of what they really are, despite the rose-tinted glasses through which Lynch and Shanahan may look at their players and what they're doing offensively and defensively. And can you and not take it personally? It's a business perspective. You need an analysis. I tell you the great thing a few weeks ago, and I sent you the clip, and I think you all talked about it a bit with your father, what Kurt Warner had said about what the Niners are doing offensively in the Seattle game. And to be honest, you and I have discussed this multiple times over the last few years about the quality of play at wide receiver, the design of the passing game offensively, and to whom they're trying to run the game through, so to speak. And actually, I wanted to send Kurt an email and say, hey, great job. You finally brought out publicly with your Hall of Fame jacket and everything, with the, veracity that he has as an analyst, as a former quarterback, Super Bowl winner, Hall of Fame guy. You pointed out very succinctly exactly what Grant and I have been discussing for several years. And now the question is, what will Kyle do about it? That's the big question.